onto your board. So that's going to be interesting, really trying to target down the opponent's setup. And we are going to be seeing one of those ever-popular Gardevoir GX variants on Damian's side.
And the Damian's list here, he really is following the general theme of this weekend. He is playing the 2-2 Sylveon line, but he's also playing 2 copies of Max Potion. Now, we did see some players dropping Sylveon altogether so that they could be playing 4 Max Potion. Most of the other players went for 2. And against a deck like Buzzwole that really likes to spread damage around the field and poke away before taking those KOs, as opposed to the big KO, those are the decks against which Max Potion really starts to get a lot of mileage, because you can just heal off. Wait till you're up to 100, 120 damage, get rid of it, and really reverse some of those attacks.
That's very true, but also in this matchup where there's little pokes of 30 damage from things like Buzzwole GX, because we know that Damian isn't playing Mr. Mime, even protecting Ralts in the early game, that can be important enough to do to maintain your board state in the early turns, because really Teodor is going to try and rush down Damian, really make sure that the Buzzwole gets in there with just 1 energy attachment, starting to put the 30s all over the board on these lower HP Pokemon. So if Damian can withstand the early waves of pressure that Teodor can put on him with the Buzzwole GX, potentially he'll be in a favourable spot.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Joe. I think we've got an early game, late game scenario here. In the early game, I would expect Teodor to be taking a few early prizes, using Buzzwole, maybe even using Lycanroc's ability to pull some Pokemon up from the bench. But as we've seen, and this is not, I'm afraid, a new situation with Gardevoir, if Gardevoir gets set up and gets a lot of energy on, they can win.
So we do see the Buzzwole GX start for Teodor, who is going to be teeing off here, and he also gets himself a Brooklet Hill, which he is able to search his deck for either a basic water or basic fighting Pokemon and get it directly onto his bench. Slightly frustrating for Damian, because he's actually already started with his Remoraid. That would be the only card that he can get value from this stadium. So there's never going to be an issue for Teodor to put it into play. He's going to be able to also look through his deck. He has prized one of his Lycanroc GX as Mallow in there. Oh no, sorry, not a Mallow. It's a Regirock EX. It's just the new promo card. Very shiny, very cool. But he's going to go ahead and grab himself a Rockruff. Looks like he has Max Elixirs in his deck as well. He has to be very careful when he's using these. It does give him some good energy acceleration to start using and threatening with multiple attackers, but at the same time he has to be concerned at the fact that the more energy he puts on his own Pokemon, the easier it is for Damian to take Respond knockouts with their Gardevoirs.
And we did see the double-edged sword there of strong energy. He hit a strong energy from the Max Elixir. That is, of course, a special energy which cannot be used with Max Elixir. And actually, as we see the Sycamore come down there, he's only playing 9 fighting energy. 3 of them were in his hand. 1 of them's in his prizes. So he only actually had 5 basic energy in his deck, which makes it not that surprising that the Max Elixir failed.
Yeah, it's not too surprising. And also, it may even be a blessing in disguise. I've just said how awkward it can be for Teodor if he does start stacking energy all over his board. So potentially just keeping 1 energy on a lot of his Buzzwoles and having threats potentially all over his field may be a better approach from him. So that's potentially why he went for the Professor Sycamore this turn rather than holding on to some of these energy for future turns, because he thinks, you know what, I'm only going to be putting 1 of energy all over my board regardless, so this could be fine.
Having said that, I'm looking at his deck list. I don't see Super Rod. I don't see Brock's Grip. He has already discarded 3 of his 9 basic fighting energy. That is a lot, especially on one's prize, one's on the board. In the mid to late game, he could find himself running short of energy, although he has gone first and got an energy on Rockruff, and I love that play, because it means double colourless energy and Lycanroc can attack. He only needs 1 energy on Buzzwole. He can't attack. He doesn't need an energy on Buzzwole turn 1. I've played Lycanroc quite a lot, and if you can go first and get an energy on that Rockruff turn 1, it makes such a difference to your attacking options as you go through the game.
Yeah, because definitely that will be the GX attack option that he'll be looking for throughout the game, so he'll be able to gust up anything active when he evolves and make sure he can take 2 prizes on the most juicy threat that Damian has on his side of the field. For Damian, he did a quick search of the Brooklet Hill to see, is my Bridget still in here? He does play 2, of course, and what Pokemon he will get from the Bridget before playing it himself, so just doing the right sequencing here, as he's also going to be able to manually attach a Fairy Energy, getting that Energy Evolution ability so that he is able to search his deck and instantly evolve into a Sylveon GX. This is one of the reasons why it is such a powerful partner alongside the Gardevoir. Not only is its GX attack very strong, not only is its first attack great for setting you up, it's the fact that you can get it on the first turn thanks to this Eevee's ability.
It is wonderful, and when you play Sylveon in these Gardevoir lists, you end up having to play a bit of a Float Stone as well. Although I say that, I'm looking at Damian's list. Yeah. I don't actually see any Float Stone, just 4 Guzma. So he's not going to be able to get that Sylveon into the active. Having said that, Eevee has 60 HP and a weakness to fighting. You do not want that sitting on the field to be Guzma'd up and KO'd with a Jet Punch from a Buzzwole. So even though he couldn't use the Sylveon last turn, that evolution really was important.
Yeah, it looks like Damian decided not to put Float Stones in his deck. That was sort of a floating spot for many people in the Gardevoir variant, and I think he's opted to play a couple of Max Potion and a second copy of Parallel City. These sorts of things have been very impactful in the Gardevoir decks, and he said, you know what, the Float Stone, yes, if I hit it on turn 1, it's incredible for getting early magical ribbons, but it's such a low chance that I'm just going to not play them at all, and if ever I need to retreat, I have the Guzma, and I can just Secret Spring to things to retreat as well. So it's an interesting deck choice from here. As it passes over to Teodor, he is able to put down a Zygarde EX, attaches a Strong Energy and a Choice Band to it, and follows up with an N here.
And speaking of those super shiny new promo cards, he's gone for the Zygarde as well. I like Zygarde. Zygarde is a really nice alternative to Buzzwole because it's got a grass weakness rather than a psychic weakness. Now I know that's not terribly relevant in this deck, but you also hit slightly more damage to the active. It's 40 rather than 30 if there's a stadium in play, which there is. You don't get the bench damage, but sometimes that's good enough anyway. Now, he could have just put the Strong Energy and the Choice Band onto the active Buzzwole, but without a Fighting Fury Belt, he wasn't able to get the KO on the active routes, so he might be going for something like his own Float Stone and just choosing to attack with Zygarde instead.
It's a really interesting approach. He was hoping that he was able to find a switching card so he could then move out of his Buzzwole and simply get the attack off. There's, of course, the Stadium in play, combined with the Strong Energy that would knock out a Rolls in one hit. Looks like he's not been able to get that. He does, however, get the Max Elixir hitting onto his Rockruff on the bench, so he's getting potential threats on the board, but it was an interesting choice from him, trying to get one knockout guaranteed on the Zygarde rather than trying to set up multiple with Buzzwole, because typically you associate Buzzwole with early game pressure, and that's not what we've seen so far. He's going much more passive with the card.
And the other thing, which might be relevant with Zygarde here, Zygarde has a 2 energy attack, Buzzwole has a 1 energy attack or a 3 energy attack. And when you're against Gardevoir, and the more energy you have, the more damage they do, sometimes that 2 energy attack could make the difference, an option you don't have with Buzzwole. Unfortunately, Buzzwole didn't attack last turn. Teodor's got a lovely setup, but he hasn't actually done any damage. We talked about this as an early game, late game, and Teodor has not had the early game damage we'd be looking for. Great board position, but his deck really wants the early damage.
So we are going to see Damian. He is going to use an Ultra Ball here. It looks like he also has a Professor Sycamore in his hand, so he can simply attach a Fair Energy to the active Rolts, play the Professor Sycamore, and it gives him the option then to retreat into the Sylveon and potentially go for a Magical Ribbon if he wants to start setting up multiple Rolts. If not, he could even find himself a rare candy off of the Professor Sycamore as well. So really strong stuff from him. He also has the potential to Abyssal Hand if he wants to see even more cards here before going for the discard. But it may be a little bit risky. He could draw into some awkward stuff. So instead, going straight for the Professor Sycamore. I like this play just because you can only be punished at that point. Yes, it would be great if those 2 cards happened to be a rare candy in a stage 2, but at the same time it could have been one of the 2 pieces, and having those discarded could have been a little bit painful.
Yeah, you can't do that. Drawing the candy without the Gardevoir is just too awkward. The unfortunate thing is, of course, when you draw a hand of 7, it can be quite difficult to whittle it down below 5 cards so that the Abyssal Hand works. Having said that, if you've got rare candy and you've got a Gardevoir, and you've got another energy to Secret Spring on there, and you've got a Parallel City to punish your opponent, which, to be honest, I think that would be a very good play right about now.
There it is.
And apparently Damian agrees with me. Now, he's making a mockery of what I just said, because now he can draw some cards of Abyssal Hand as well. And look what he's had to do. He's had to get rid of that second Rockruff, which means fewer abilities on the Lycanroc. I really liked that Sycamore from Damian, was wonderful.
I honestly think this is like an ideal turn 1 and 2 for Damian. He's not even used Magical Ribbon to help him get there. He's just naturally drawn into some very strong hands. Even though it's only 60 damage this turn with Infinite Force, it really puts Teodor in an awkward spot. We do see, though, the Bloodthirsty Eyes ability from the benched Lycanroc. In fact, he's choosing not to play it, keeping keeping the Gardevoir GX active. It's enough of a threat, and we do see now energy going on to the Buzzwole and following up with an N from Teodor here. Pretty awkward stuff for him, to be honest. He doesn't play the Espeon EX in his build, so these little 30 damage pokes would seem more impactful if he were to play that card, but oftentimes that is the approach people try to combine with Buzzwole, so instead he's going to look to try and find maybe some choice bands, get some early damage on the Gardevoir, so maybe later on the Lycanroc could finish it off, or even the Zygarde.
I think he's looking for a float stone here, to be perfectly honest. This could be an early GX attack. The GX attack on Lycanroc does 50 damage for every Pokemon on your opponent's bench. So if he's got the float stone, he would do 250 here, KO the Gardevoir with 2 energy, and then Damian's left with just 2 routes and a Sylveon. Sylveon's a good attacker, but that Gardevoir can keep building up energy and really start taking big knockouts turn after turn. I think even though it's very early in the game, a big one-hit KO on Gardevoir would be a really good thing here, because that Gardevoir could quickly get to the stage where it's overwhelming. Yeah,
it's an interesting one. It's always awkward. It's only a 2-energy Gardevoir GX. He's going to have potential to build up more, but maybe it's the tempo that he's thinking of at this point, Teodor. If he can deal with one Gardevoir, maybe it's going to slow down Damian enough to do some magical ribbons and all sorts of other things to get multiple stage 2s out into play, as he does hit himself a max elixir here that can go onto that Buzzwole that he's just retreated. So he's trying to take the tempo as well as 2 big prizes here if he indeed does choose to flip the GX attack, which it looks like he'll definitely be doing here.
I mean, retreating the Buzzwole and just putting him active to not use the X-Attack would be very strange. That's not what he's doing. And you're absolutely right, Joe. This could come back to get him later on in the game. Maybe in 4 turns' time we're going to see a 7-energy Gardevoir. The thing is, that Gardevoir with a Secret Spring ability, he can attach a double colourless, he can Secret Spring, he's got the Candy Gardevoir. He could have put 4 more energy and a Choice Band on that Gardevoir.
Right.
He could have had a 6-energy Gardevoir with a Choice Band this turn and really just been running through. It was a risk, but I think it was a risk that had to be taken. Of course, Field Blower, not a risk, and it's paying off.
Paying off here. He does have a fair energy to attach. It doesn't look like he has any useful supporter, but he does still have the Abyssal Hand, which he's going to go for 2 more cards here. He gets himself the Eevee and the Sylveon. Not ideal for him. We'll see if he can do anything else, or he may have to finish on simply a Magical Ribbon, and that is going to be exactly what Damian has to do here. He's going to maybe look for some potential other rare candies and other stage 2s. He could get himself a draw supporter, which it looks like he's eyeing up a Professor Sycamore, which also looks very appealing. He can also grab some energy cards to keep stacking up the Gardevoir GX, which is currently right now safe on the bench. There's also going to be some mind games throughout this game. Seeing as though Teodor does play Lycanroc GX, sometimes people think there's a compromise between the amount of Guzmas they play because they have the ability Bloodthirsty Eyes, but Teodor's also playing 4 copies of Guzma as well, so he has a lot of gusting options here, and I'm not sure if Damian knows quite yet that that could be the case.
No, and it looks like Damian's gone for a double colourless. I think that was the second card he's taken, so that you can attack with a Sylveon or the Gardevoir. I'm looking at that Parallel City, and it's really worked here beautifully. Oh, he's actually got the Guzma. I was going to say, a Gusting would be great this turn, but actually he's got the Guzma, and that backs up what you said, Joe.
Yeah.
Playing the 4 Guzma with the Lycanroc just gives you so many options, and I think that's why Teodor is pretty much the only Lycanroc Buzzwole Zygarde deck we're seeing in Top Cut. He's gone overboard on the Gusting, and it gives you so many options for little prizes that it lets you end the game. And Damian here is just going to be sitting with 1 Gardevoir and not much else.
Yeah, that's very true. Denying the Secret Spring does stop Damian getting out of control with energy attachments, and that is going to be important. One great thing for Teodor is a lot of his main attackers have 190 HP. That 10 damage difference is so much. It's an extra energy that it forces Damian to have in order to reach knockouts, and it means that this Zygarde will be safe. Thanks to the strong energy, taking a knockout on this rolls. It does put him to a 7-prize game, seeing as though he's just taken a single one, but there is that Octillery which isn't going anywhere as well, so that could be Teodor's line to take the last 3 prizes here, as Damian forced back into the Sylveon, maybe even a Plegix play this turn, as we do see him attaching the double colourless energy. He could really set Teodor back here, as we also see a Field Blower coming down, seeing as though a lot of the max elixirs have gone from Teodor's deck, and so have a lot of the basic energy in the first place. This could be a really big plea here.
This could be a really big plea here. Now, he's still got the Zygarde, and you talk about the 7-prize game. A second strong energy would KO an Octillery, but He's got 2 energy on a Lycanroc, 1 more and he's hitting that basic 110. He's got 2 energy on a Buzzwole, 1 more and he's hitting that 160. These fighting decks take quite a few manual attachments, because there's not really much acceleration, before they get up to these big attacks. And Teodor's actually done it. He's actually getting his Pokemon 1 energy away from going, I'm actually using big attacks, not single energy attacks. And a plea here could go, what were you saying, Teodor?
Yeah, let's see if Damian's also able to get himself a Fair Energy for more Secret Springs. He's also grabbing himself an Ultra Ball, so he's definitely going to want to maybe establish more Rolts if he is able to. He's also eyeing up a Fair Energy that he's going to discard, in fact. So he's looking for other resources. He still has a Bissell Hand available to him also, as he is going to have a scout through his deck. I know a couple of these Rolts have been knocked out already. Yeah, looks like he doesn't have any valid targets for the Ultra Ball. He's simply going to have to shuffle and maybe get an Abyssal Hand off here for a couple of cards. Maybe that was the potential around this this Ultra Ball with no target. So 2 more cards from him. He's going to be looking to find, I think Super Rod is something that he plays in his deck as a 1 copy, and that's going to be what he's going to be looking for to try and re-establish some of these Rolts, because only 1 Gardevoir is a lot less intimidating.
He's not got a good hand at all.
No.
2 Guzma, double colourless energy, rare candy and a Bridget. There's not much he can do with that. And actually here, we do see him drawing into a strong energy. Now, Buzzwole's not quite doing enough at the moment. He could be doing kind of 180 with that strong energy, because we know he's got a Guzma in the hand. Even with a Choice Band, that's 210, that's not a KO. I would be tempted here to just hit that Gardevoir for, say, 180 here. Now, I know that Gardevoir would probably get the return KO quite easily. Ooh. Oh, but he's actually going for the KO on the Lele here.
Yeah.
I like this, with the caveat that that Gardevoir is now going to KO the Buzzwole and might be able to follow that up with a KO on the Lycanroc and on the Zygarde. I think that Gardevoir could be taking several KOs here. I would like to have seen him hit the Gardevoir, because if he does go double colourless energy, Secret Spring at a couple of turns, it's going to be hard to get rid of that Gardevoir.
I think for me, Teodor's doing this because he has the safety net of Octillery. He knows that he is now 1 prize away. Even if he is hit with an N to 1 card, he just needs one of his 3 remaining Guzma, because his main gusting has been via Bloodthirsty Eyes, so he has plenty of outs still with Guzma to take the final prize on Octillery. So I get what you're saying. He could fall prey to an N and then not have the response, not find himself the Guzma, which will definitely be awkward because it's leaving the Gardevoir GX unchecked, but he's just trying to end this game as quickly as possible.
He is, and actually I'm looking at it, he's got 3 attackers. So even though he's not 1-hit KO in the Gardevoir, well, he can hit it for 110 with Lycanroc next turn, and then maybe he can KO it with Zygarde. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly he can get the energy on there, because, I mean, it's this Gardevoir or bust. But then again, we know how many gusting effects Teodor plays. A Guzma energy here and he'll just KO the Octillery for the game. It could be as simple as that.
We're going to see a Regirock come down, also an Ultra Ball, getting rid of Professor Sycamore and a Field Blower. He can search his deck.
Second Octillery.
Second Octillery is the one. He's going to be drawing a lot of cards here. And this is what we see. N, not a problem when you've got 2 Octillery set up.
Nobody cares about N. And, I mean, to be honest, we know he plays a whole bunch of Guzma. I'm sure he's got some left in his deck. Guzma, fighting energy, he just KOs the Octillery and wins. There's the Guzma. And you've got to think, now he has to play that first so he can draw more cards of Octillery to get the energy. We know he got,
there it is.
First card.
Not a problem.
That is game 1 for Teodor, and that is why you play 4 Guzma, even though you're playing a Lycanroc deck. We really did see pretty much that entire game, Teodor's like, I've got the gusting. We're not looking at this thinking, if he's got a Guzma, it's just like, how many Octillery does he have to use to get the Guzma? And that's why he's playing the 2-2 Octillery. He knows there's going to be turn after turn where he's playing stuff like Guzma, so he's got to counterbalance that by playing lots of additional draw.
Yeah, and he just really stifled the approach of Damian. He was able to take out a couple of Rolts and take those early prizes, made them count, and still had plenty of Guzmas available to finish out the game. There was, back on that crucial turn when Damian attached the double colourless energy to Sylveon, we were both here sitting thinking that there was going to be a Pelegiax attack because of the amount of energy on the board. He instead tried to go more aggressively on the Buzzwole GX, hitting it for 110, and from there Teodor was able to simply win in 2 turns straight afterwards. So potentially trying to navigate the Play-GX may be an approach that Damian goes for in this next game?
I think quite possibly, because we saw that Lycanroc having the 2 energy being ready to attack. Now Zygarde would actually have also been able to get the KO with that second strong, would have been doing Soulstorm for 100, but it's taking away these options. If you can leave him so he's only got 1 Buzzwole remaining, then KO the Buzzwole with Gardevoir, there's no follow-up. These fighting decks do not get energy on there quickly, but when they do get the energy, as we saw with Teodor last game, these attacks, they try to go from 1 energy, I'm doing little pokes, I'll get to you later, to 3 energy, how am I going to win this game?
Yeah, absolutely. So one good thing for Damian now, he's lost the first game, so he's able to choose to go first, and he is an evolution deck after all, so this is obviously going to be very impactful as we do see him. It looks like he's got an opening Ultra Ball and also has a Ralts lead, so he's got himself a pretty handy start here.
It's pretty good. Now, presumably the Ultra Ball is going to be for a Tapu Lele for a Wonder Tag. Stop me if you've heard that before. Yeah, he's gone for the Bridget, and I think I made this point on stream yesterday. More than once I have played an Ultra Ball for a Professor Sycamore or a Bridget before my opponent's gone, you have to get the Tapu Lele first, Ross, because the Tapu Lele is just a conduit. Here, we're probably going to see, it might be an Eevee, a Routes, or a Remoraid, or it could just, no, that's what he's going for. Yeah. There is an argument for going just 3 routes to try and get an army of Gardevoir out, but of course, we've talked about Play-GX. We're not in Damian's head. We don't know what he's thinking, but we're sitting here looking and going, oh, maybe that Play-GX could have turned the game. Even if Damian doesn't use Play-GX, you've got to think he's got it in mind as an option.
Yeah, it's definitely just something that you always have available to you. As you said, Ross, that Bridget is an interesting one because Teodor going second means he can go for early jet punches and maybe target both Ralts at once this turn. But it doesn't look like he's content to simply attach a basic fighting energy, so he's going to go instantly for the Professor Sycamore. What's he looking for here?
He wants a strong energy, and he got a bit greedy, and unfortunately he's paid for it.
Man.
And I've done this on many a game. We've done this, oh, I've got a basic energy in hand. Yeah, but I want that double colourless, that strong energy. I only play 4 copies, but I'm getting 7 cards for Sycamore. Sure, I'm going to draw it. And if you draw it, it's amazing. What's really upsetting is when you then draw 0 energy, and instead of doing 30 to the active Routes, 30 to the bench Routes, he's now doing 0 to the active, 0 to the bench. Having said that, if he'd hit Strong Energy Fighting Fury Belt, then he would have been able to... Oh, he doesn't play Fighting Fury Belt, does he?
No.
But had he hit Strong Energy Regirock, there we go, same deal, he then could have KO'd the Routes while doing 60, and that would have been awesome. He does hit one off the Max Elixir though, so it's not the end of the world. He still gets his turn 1 energy, it's just not where he wants.
Yeah, it's a real shame. Both games we've seen him not go aggressively with the Buzzwole, and it's normally just one of the most potent threats in the early turns, so the Professor Sycamore looking to get even more damage into play has punished him a little bit here. Fortunately, he's got a pretty strong hand still. He has another Max Elixir which he could hold on to, which he does, but he has Octillery for next turn, so he seems to still be in a pretty good spot, even though he did miss out on a big chunk of damage there.
And I think he's doing all right here. He didn't get the damage. That's quite sad. But he's got the board position a little bit. He's got the Lycanroc with the energy, which we've talked about before. And now the N, of course, hurts because we know he had the Octillery ready to go. But as with all of this, it's going to depend on what Damian does. If Damian hits 2 Rare Candy, 2 Gardevoir and an Octillery here, very unlikely, then Teodor's going to be sitting there going, really wish I'd gotten a bit of damage on the board. If he doesn't get those big evolutions, Teodor's going to have another couple of turns, and maybe next turn he does get the strong energy Regirock, and then he's got 1 energy on the Buzzwole, and it's less vulnerable to Gardevoir, and it actually works out very nicely indeed.
This is one moment where you see in the game that Damian may be punished for not playing Floatstone. It's his own choice, of course, but he doesn't play Floatstone in his list, so there's no means of him getting into a magical ribbon this turn, as he only has 1 energy attachment. The Sylveon was simply in his hand, so he just manually evolved up. However, he does still have an Ultra Ball and a Rare Candy, so he can still go for a Gardevoir GX, so pretty nice hand from him there.
He could opt to go for the Octillery. His hand is very bad right now. He's only got a Rare Candy and Energy and another item card. I think here, as painful as this is, it's got to be Octillery, because otherwise you have a Gardevoir and you're like, yay, I've got a Gardevoir! And I can't do anything.
Yeah.
You're spreading damage around. Why did I do that? So you've got to go for the Octillery, and he's kept a rare candy.
Yeah.
So hopefully here, he uses Abyssal Hand, draws a Gardevoir, life is good.
He's also got that manual attachment that he can do on the rolls as well. So he's going to be able to draw 3 cards here. And let's see, it looks like he's going to attach it to the bench to Sylveon. And let's see what he can get off of this Abyssal Hand for 3 cards. Does he get into any stage 2s? More rare candies and Guzmas, but he does get himself a Professor Sycamore. It's an ugly few cards there.
I was going to say, is that 2 or 3 rare candy in hand?
There's 2.
He had 2 and he drew 1, so he's either discarded 1 and got 2 in hand, or he's got 3 in hand. If he plays that Professor Sycamore, that is 3 rare candy gone, and he's down again.
Yeah, not a great spot to be in at all.
And if he waits, then Buzzwole just takes out the 60 HP routes. And if he Sycamores, he's got to evolve slowly, meaning Buzzwole gets more damage on the field.
It's a bit of a catch-22 situation. We do see Teodor. He's got himself a Brooklet Hill down. He's going to grab now the Regirock EX. It does deal, or it allows your fighting basic Pokemon to deal an extra 10 damage. And we are going to see he also has a Max Elixir to boot here. And he does hit this one. And that's going to go onto his Buzzwole on the bench. And seeing a few misses of rare candies and evolutions, you've got to think this turn he'll be looking for Jet Punches.
I think Jet Punch here, and this really highlights how crucial Jet Punch could have been last turn.
Yeah.
This could be a double routes KO this turn. That doesn't mean to say that he's going to lose the game or anything like that. And he's only playing 9 basic energy. He's hitting the Max Elixir. This is really good. And now he's got a 2 energy Buzzwole. Knuckle Impact can be great. Now, it's quite a lot to ask for, but if he had... he's only playing 1 Regirock, though. So, unfortunately, Regirock, Choice Band, 1 Strong Energy will only actually do 220.
Oh boy, he did draw off the Abyssal Hand, though. He got himself a Strong Energy, so as we alluded to earlier, the thing he was looking for on the first turn, or his first turn, I should say, the second turn of the game, it means now he can, alongside the Regirock, knock out this Ralts in 1 hit and also be putting pressure elsewhere on the board. So, really nice pickup before he uses an N here.
And if Damian does get the Gardevoir, then Buzzwole is adding 30 damage to the attack, not 60. So now we're seeing, actually, now he's got the Regirock and the Strong Energy, maybe it's not that bad that he didn't have the energy last turn. And this for Teodor is the absolute perfect scenario. Damian's having a little bit of a slow start. He's had 2 turns, but not been able to get any evolutions, not even a Curlier. And now Teodor spreading damage. Of course, what Teodor doesn't know, that N... so good for Damian. His hand was not looking pretty.
We are going to see Damian promoting his Ralts. It does have a Choice Band attached to it currently. It looks like he did draw back into one of those many rare candies that he was holding on to last turn. Gets himself a Gardevoir GX finally, so that's no longer a concern from him. The Jet Punch could be punishing, but he does look like he has a double Colourless Energy that he can manually attach, which is also going to be what he goes for here. And he's going to Professor Sycamore, getting rid of, looks like, Gallade, Eevee, and a Guzma there. But he still has plenty more to go. He needs to start developing more Ralts. I think that was the story of last game, that he wasn't able to develop enough Gardevoirs, and that's got to be something he looks to change in this game.
And, I mean, Teodor's going to want another Lycanroc down soon, because what we're going to see is, and there is the Parallel City again. I don't want to... If I'm Teodor, I want all of those cards.
I think it's got to be the Regirock.
It's got to be Regirock.
Even with the Float Stone, I think it's done its extra 10 damage that was so crucial last turn. It may not be the case on future turns. And, it looks like he has to bite the bullet with that one.
That's painful.
Yeah, not a great discard for him. The Parallel City is so important with Gardevoir. Not only used for playing with the Sylveon GX in a combination, it's also just great in general. Putting anyone to a 3... Pokemon bench is going to be important. We're just confirming that those are the 3 targets that Damian's going for with his Super Rod. Going to recycle some of those Pokemon. Gallade could end up being an important option here to skew the prize trade later on in the game. So these are going to be cycled in, and let's see if Damian can continue and draw into some fair energy, which is definitely what he's looking for this turn.
And he needs routes, and not just 1 routes, because if he grabs 1 routes, Lycanroc pulls it up, it gets KO'd by a Buzzwole or something. And then he's got 1 Gardevoir on the field. That is where Lycanroc GX's attack comes in so handy. He needs multiple Gardevoir, and if he cannot get them on board, the 1 GX attack, the 1 decent cost, big attack Teodor will have all game, could be it.
This is really awkward from Damian. He played a field blower to get rid of his own parallel city, even though it was so painful to Teodor, just so he could get one abyssal hand draw. And unfortunately, it was the max potion that we've just seen him play, so nothing great in his hand. So he's being forced to pay the retreat cost of Gardevoir and simply go for a magical ribbon here.
That is quite upsetting, to be perfectly honest. Now, the other awkward thing we've got going on here is maybe Damian's not benching Pokemon, because he's thinking, well, if I don't have a bench of 5 or 4, you can't get a KO. 4 bench Pokemon, Choice Band on Lycanroc, 1 hit KO on Gardevoir. Of course, if Gardevoir gets 2 hit KO'd, he's not establishing much of a board. And I've got to mention, did that Gardevoir not have 30 damage on from an earlier Jet Punch?
Yeah, he played the max potion out of his hand.
Oh, of course he did. Yes, thank you very much.
So there is going to be the magical ribbon, and it goes back over to Teodor. He's going to get a Choice Band on his Buzzwole GX. He's also going to get a basic fighting energy onto it, and we do see the bloodthirsty eyes from the Lycanroc GX. Such a powerful ability. We also see another Brooklet Hill putting down a new Rockruff, so he has that option again in future turns if he's able to find more evolutions. And is he going to find a way of retreating here and attacking with the Buzzwole GX? He still has the Absorption GX attack as an available option to him, or is he going to keep trying to spread damage all over the board with Buzzwole here?
I mean, Absorption GX will be amazing here. It hits the exact number he wants to hit. It would hit exactly 230. 40 damage for each prize card remaining. 40 times 5 is 200. Add the Choice Band, 230. And then Damian has very, very little.
Oh, he got
hits the Float Stone.
He got it.
This is absolutely huge. Maybe Damian was not benching routes to try and get rid of Lycanroc GX attack, but Teodor goes, don't worry, Damian, I've got another GX attack that can get a 1-hit KO on your Gardevoir, and Teodor is really putting himself in an amazing position here, and he's got an Octillery on board, so N is not going to be as punishing as it would be against some other players.
So you can see he does point and flip over his GX marker, being able to take 2 prizes, and not only 2 prizes, it's the most important 2 prizes on Damian's board. It's the 1 Gardevoir GX that he's finally got set up. That's been denied from Teodor, and he's left only with Sylveon as any real response to this Buzzwole. He still has Knuckle Impact available for him next turn. He would have to maybe establish another Regirock EX if he was going to get a knockout on the Sylveon, however. But it looks like he's finally being able to find some Rolts that he's going to start putting into play. But again, he's going to try and stabilize with N. We know Teodor already has the Octillery set up on the board, and no matter what Damian does here, it's going to be a slow turn.
It's going to be a slow turn, and I'm looking in Teodor's deck, and I'm thinking, I haven't seen him use the Rescue Stretcher this turn. If he gets the Rescue Stretcher, he gets the Regirock EX back, and actually he can use Brooklet Hill to shuffle it in the deck with 2 others and then search it out, rather than just grabbing it. Then he hits exactly 200.
Yep.
Here. Not Choice Band, sorry, Field Blower, to get rid of the Choice Band. Field Blower is a huge card this turn for him.
Doesn't look like he's got it. He's holding on to the double Colourless Energy, which he could use this turn to maybe start attacking this Buzzwole, hoping that the Sylveon can get some damage in. That's what we are seeing here. He has to deal with this Buzzwole in a 2-shot fashion, and that is exactly what we're seeing. The Fairy Wind for just 110 damage. Can Teodor access a Regirock EX to do another huge play with Knuckle Impact this turn?
The other option he would have is to just bite the bullet and just, use a Guzma and grab something like a Tapu Lele, there we go, and hit it with another Pokemon, spread a bit of damage around. I don't mind this play at all, because he's actually got the KO on Tapu Lele. He doesn't need the Regirock. Now the Tapu Lele's, he's not really stopping Damian's setup. That Sylveon will get a revenge knockout this turn. Guaranteed. It's already doing enough damage. So he's basically saying, I want the 2 prizes. I would rather have the guaranteed 2 prizes and let you take a return knockout than dig for my 1 Rescue Stretcher in my deck and maybe not be able to get it. Now, Teodor tries to play an end there. Our fantastic judge staff going,
very strong.
Don't do that, Teodor. You've already played a Guzma. This will go badly for both of you.
Yeah. When you play the Lycanroc GX, sometimes you just think, I used a Bloodthirsty Eyes. I can still use a supporter this turn. But no, very quick on the mark there. Thank you very much to the judges. But yeah, it's the same as the game 1, where Teodor just, even though it's not an impactful 2 prizes in terms of dealing with the board state, he knows he's just so close to winning on a prize race alone that taking the Guzma on the Tapu Lele is that important, because once again, it's the power of Octillery. Octillery is what allows him to do these plays, because he knows that even though Damian is slapping down the end to 1 card here. He's still so close to taking a single prize on the artillery. That's a very simple prize for him. Galade's not even that far out of range at this point, and also the Ralts. So Teodor in a great spot thanks to the support that artillery provides.
I mean, artillery is what's doing it here. If he could grab a strong energy for that Buzzwole, then he's hitting 70 damage, and that would get rid of the Ralt. So a strong energy and a Guzma or a Lycanroc will win him the game the following turn. And he's got the Floatstone on the Buzzwole, which is very nice. That means that Guzma's not going to hurt him in terms of having to get a Pokemon active. And Damian here is going to have to go for he's got the rare candy, cool. I was going to say he had to go for either a Curlier or a Gardevoir. He's got the candy. Because even 80, it would survive a 2 strong energy Jet Punch as long as there's no Lycanroc.
I'm not sure if he does have the rare candy in his hand. I think what he's going to hope to do is go for a Premonition into Abyssal Hand Draw. I think that's what he's going to look for, because it looks like there's N, Guzma, and Fair Energy currently in his hand.
Doesn't have it.
It looks like he's going to have to use this combination of Gallade plus Octillery to hope that in the top 5 cards there will be a rare candy. He needs this badly.
He really does. If he doesn't hit the candy, he doesn't have it. That means that 60 HP Routes is going to be on the bench. Bit of a risk not going for the Curlier. I see exactly why he did it, because like I say, Regirock would still have got the KO. But now it's strong energy or Regirock, Rescue Stretcher in this case, plus a Guzma or Lycanroc, wins the game for Teodor next turn. And of course, let's remember that a win puts him on 31 match points, which is going to get him exceptionally close to that top 8.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was unfortunately not able to find it in his top 5 cards. That is one of the reasons why Gallade is in the deck. It's such a strong option. We're going to see he has to go all in at this point. Teodor has the 1 prize. It doesn't matter if he Guzmas it or not. But we are going to see the Fairy Wind taking 2 prize cards on that heavily damaged Buzzwole GX. Teodor promoting his Floatstone Buzzwole, his current 2 cards in his hand. He has the Lycanroc GX, it looks like, in his hand, so that's going to be a way of pulling up the Ralts.
And a Sycamore.
And a Professor Sycamore in his hand as well.
I'm pretty sure his hand is Lycanroc Sycamore.
Well, that sounds very strong.
And I love this play. He's using a Brooklet Hill to grab a Remoraid out of his deck. He doesn't care about Remoraid, but which means he is statistically slightly more likely to hit that strong energy off of this Sycamore.
Oh, it's a
Buzzwole.
Too shiny, that old Buzzwole. So it
Too
looks
much shine.
Oh, it was 2 Buzzwoles, in fact, so not even a Lycanroc, so we're both wrong.
So we just lied on both counts. He's actually got a really bad hand now.
It looks like he does have himself a Guzma, but not enough to take a knockout. Potentially he can just attach to his benched Buzzwole and just do a 30-30 spread.
I would quite like a retreat into anything, Guzma up the Octillery, and then just do the Jet Punch, because you're not hitting the routes, so you might as well just do a bit of damage, and then next turn, the Octillery's in range, because the Octillery's got 60 HP.
Yeah, you definitely Jet Punch, and the target would indeed be Octillery, because then it will be that little bit more in range. Let's see if Teodor does go for this line of play here. It looks like it's got to be the strongest option for him at this point.
He has filled up his bench, though, so Regirock is now literally and figuratively off the table.
Yes, off the table, currently in his discard pile, and also not eligible to be targeted via Brooklet Hill when his bench is currently full.
Yeah, absolutely. He can't get the Rescue Stretcher. There is no bench space available. But I think here, you're seeing he's going through. We saw Damian. He's played a bunch of cards, and also he's played a double colourless energy, which means he's not got as many double colourless. Octillery has a retreat cost of 2. It's going to be an awkward thing to get out the active. I would be a big fan of using the Guzma on the Octillery, because here's the thing. Even if Damian does have a way to retreat the Octillery, he can just evolve the Rockruff next turn.
There it is. He was making sure he was going to make every play possible to him, and it looks like he's actually going to go for the corner on the Rockruff, I should say. It's a fantastic attack. It simply says your opponent can't retreat.
Yeah. I quite like this, because now if Damian does have some... Well, no, because if he's got a Guzma here, he can still hit the Buzzwole. Yeah. I would still have liked to have seen the Buzzwole using Jet Punch to do 50 to the Octillery, because a Guzma here is going to put Damian in a very good position. He's going to be able to do 120 to the Buzzwole while getting the Octillery out the active. He's got the Guzma ready to go. So here, 90 damage. And I damage, whereas had he hit
trap for one turn, it could be all over. So Teodor, he really thought about that play as well. He was looking at both players' discards, how many outs have I seen any Floatstone in either game? No is the answer. So he's hoping that maybe there's just a few outs for Damian, but we know that he currently has the Guzma in his hand, and that's going to have to be played. And this guy,
when you're going through that, if Damian doesn't have a Guzma, then all of a sudden Teodor's there going, that's right, I'm Scruff, I'm buying turns, I'm guaranteed taking out the Octillery. If he could combine this next turn with an end.
Have we moved has Damian moved his Pokemon yet with the Guzma?
Yes, but Sylveon, what he's going to do here is maybe Fairy Wind away, or maybe even use a Plea GX to get rid of all the energy on Teodor's side of the field. No, he is just going for the Fairy Wind. Now, Teodor needs that second Octillery this turn. He's got he needs to Ultra for the Octillery, because next turn, an Enter 1, if there's no Octillery on the board, would be really, really punishing.
It was a huge draw from him. He actually drew the Ultra Ball off the top. There it is, the second Octillery. That's what he's going to be searching for. The Abyssal Hand has been so far, and he actually has a bit of a mountain to climb at this point. It seemed like it was getting close to wrapped up, but Damian, with all the answers, and that Gardevoir GX looking very dangerous at this point. A lot of energy already on it, and Teodor not really in a position to respond it in any way. So we are just going to see Teodor making sure he can count his deck before going through more actions. Does he want to commit this Floatstone? I think it is, but no, he's just going to go for 4 draws instead. There's one Strong Energy, also an N as well, as a basic energy as well. Where does he commit this energy again? Are we going to try and set up the double Jet Punch play? We know Damian's played one of his Max Potion. That's maybe one of the reasons why Teodor's not trying to set up a 2-hit KO on something like the Octillery. And as you can see, he's going to have to check the discard pile. He needs to know these counts.
I think he puts it on Lycanroc. And I think the reason he puts it on... And I don't actually put the strong energy down this turn. I put the basic energy on Lycanroc. And then I do 30 damage with Jet Punch to Octillery. Then next turn, either I can pop a strong energy on to the Buzzwole, and I'm doing 50. Oh, sorry, I'm doing 70.
Ooh, wow.
Or I can put an energy on the Lycanroc, and I'm doing 110. That would be my way of going through it. I think what Teodor's saying here is, you know what, I'm going to do lots of damage to the Sylveon, because I can then KO this... Oh, no, he's retreating, and he's going to use Corner. And now I love the Corner play, because he's going, you know what, I can Knuckle Impact next turn. I don't think you've got another Guzma.
Ooh, but at this point, as you just said, another Guzma could be the final card that Damian needs to definitely come back into this game. It really is a game of chicken at this point. Can Damian find himself a Guzma or not? What can he corner here? Is he going to go ahead and grab... if he grabs himself the Lycanroc, he can't use Corner. But maybe he's just hoping that there aren't any double colourless energy remaining for Damian. Maybe he can trap the Octillery this way. Really interesting stuff at the very end of this second game.
This is incredibly interesting. He's gone for... I like to spread damage around in these kind of decks. So spread energy around so that I've got multiple options. He basically has gone, right, I have got my Buzzwole. Buzzwole's going to win, and I'm going to make sure that you aren't going to do anything. But a Guzma here would be absolute... Oh, that was very
Secret
confident.
Spring.
That was confident. I think he's got Guzma. I think I just saw a little glimpse.
He's bumping his hand on the table. He's counting. He's doing his 3 times tables. That can only tell that there is the Guzma play. It is huge. You can see on Teodor's face, it's a grimace from him. And in comes this giant Gardevoir GX. And it looks like it's definitely going to be enough to take a knockout here. And Damian going...
240.
Yeah, 240. Just about enough, I'd say. And there's already been the GX attack used from Teodor, so there's no way that he can really respond on this. And also, taking away 2 strong energies from this Buzzwole is the main attacking threat that Teodor has available to him. He doesn't play any double colourless energy in his list. They are all strongs and basic fighting, so he's not going to have any response to this Gardevoir, and it looks like Damian's going to clinch this game.
This is the game. Teodor here needs a Guzma stall. He's got...
He suspends the rolls. Does that give him a way to lose the game?
That gives him a way to lose the game. Now, that is if Teodor has strong energy remaining.
Yes.
It gives him a way. And this is why I wanted the basic energy on the Lycanroc. If he's got strong energy Rescue Stretcher Guzma, he wins.
Yeah.
That is his route to victory here. He also needs to put something other than the Buzzwole in the active so that when he plays a Guzma, he can put the Buzzwole active. If he's got strong... He's got Rescue Stretcher.
Rescue Stretcher. How many strong energy does he have remaining in his deck?
I don't know. I need that. He doesn't have it prized. If he's got Guzma and a strong energy,
he should play Brooklet Hill here.
He should definitely play Brooklet Hill here.
So we can have a look.
Yes, I want to see his deck. I want to see what's left in there.
Okay, here's a Brooklet Hill.
He's got
2 strong energy and Guzma, so he can Rescue
still
Stretcher,
win.
get the Reggie Rock EX, then Abyssal Hand. If he can get exactly the Guzma and the strong energy, this could be the way that Teodor ends up winning this second game here. What a crazy turn of events. Damian, almost a rush of blood, just benching the Rolls and then thinking twice. You could see as soon as he put it down on the bench, he was like, oh no, is this a problem?
But Teodor had no way of knocking out the Gardevoir. The Gardevoir has 6 energy on. It's already hitting 180 to anything.
It's a big 4 cards here.
He's got it.
He's got it!
He's done it!
Oh my goodness, that's actually incredible.
That is
incredible. We do see the Guzma and Damian's face just sinks. Teodor going to be able to take out this game. Incredible stuff there.
That was a very, very tense game. When I saw 6 energy on the Gardevoir, I don't think I said it, but I was just thinking, that's game. There is no way Teodor comes back from this. Then that Routes hits the bench and you know what he's doing. He wants those extra secret springs. He wants more options. But unfortunately, it was a risky play that did not pay off. Teodor had just